Hi, everybody. I said earlier in my discussion about family, friends, and boundaries that I had a couple of these popping around in my head, so here's the other one. I wanted to talk to you today about spiritual welfare and spiritual warfare. Okay, so first of all, your spiritual welfare is something that you're responsible for. You need to figure out where you're going, what you're doing, and what your purpose is if you believe in a higher power and what that higher power entails. So that's a lot of work right there. Let's just talk about that for a second. So, what is your idea of a higher power, or do you feel like there's a higher power? So, one of the great things that I've learned in AA is they use the terms God as you understand him, her, them, whatever pronoun you want to put in there. Okay. So, a God of your own understanding. And I think that's really important because a lot of us have been indoctrinated into certain ideas of this is what God is. I've heard things about God being judgmental and wrathful. And yeah, there's some stuff that supports that in the Old Testament, absolutely, for sure. However, the God of my own understanding is loving and compassionate and cares for me beyond all understanding, beyond all conception. So take some time and consider who your God is. Okay? I have a friend who's a Buddhist. His higher power is the universal truth, the purity of truth. Okay? So that's his perception. But I'm going from, I have a hair tickle on me, y'all. So I'm going from my perception of God, but you can tailor this idea of spiritual warfare into your own perception of God, however you view that higher being or higher truth. Okay? So, spiritual warfare is a whole other thing. Okay? A lot of people are not ready for it. They're not ready to understand what that means, understand that there are so many other things going on in the world than what we see. So there are ghosts, there are spirits, there are demons, there are angels. Like there's all sorts of stuff going on that many people cannot see or even understand or experience. So we have to be mindful of the feelings that we get. We have to be mindful of when we're interacting with people. Have you ever just like been in a room somewhere where someone walks in and just the whole room, the whole feeling in the room just changes drastically and you're like, "Whoa. Someone just walked in. What the heck are they bringing in with them?" Like a cold chill comes in the room. Well, that can often mean that there's some sort of spiritual attachment to the individual. And we can all have spiritual attachments depending on, what we're going through and what's happening with us. Spiritual attachments can be very debilitating. People can get to the point where they have no energy, no motivation. They can become suicidal. It can be really hard for people when they have a spiritual attachment. Also, we can have, of course, ghosts and stuff haunting. I live in an old Victorian house. Some of you know that. And there's stuff that bebops around in my house from time to time. Okay. So being able to understand what is going on in your existence, being mindful of what's happening. Are you experiencing these things? And if you're an empath, you probably are because we pick up on that stuff. We pick up on the emotions that are present, even if they're non-corporeal. Oh, I said that word without stuttering. So, I've got a cat. Anyway, spiritual warfare. How do we do this? What's going on there? So, spiritual warfare is really blown up in the media to a ridiculous extent. Things like The Exorcist and stuff like that, even like the ghost shows and whatever, they make it sound like you have to go to battle. And I'm using the word warfare, but really, from my Christian perspective, the battle's already won. I just have to tell them that. That's my responsibility in this. I just have to let them know, hey, battle's over. You can go home now. You get to choose which home you go to, though. So that's the basis of my spiritual warfare. I address the spirit and I bind the spirit. Okay, I just ask that the spirit be bound so it can't hurt me or anybody else, because oftentimes they can. I've been affected by um, just brain fog, like confusion. I've been affected by feelings of like massive depression, like suicidal type of feeling, anger. I've been affected by anger. So if I bind the spirit, they can't harm me, and they can't bring that into my field. Okay, so that's the first thing I do. I ask God, please bind these spirits and keep them from hurting me or anybody else. Okay, that's the first step. The second step is to tell them what you believe. Now, if you aren't a Christian, please don't use this. Tailor it to your own belief system, because it is about what you believe. It's not about what you know other people believe. Okay? So tailor it to your own belief and experience. For me, it's Christian based. I believe that Jesus died for my sins and for your sins too. I believe that you can be forgiven for your actions, and that's what I believe. Okay? So I tell the spirits that. And then I give them the option. You have a choice. You can go to heaven, you can go to hell, but you can't stay here. It's that good old, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So, yeah, you can go to heaven, you can go to hell. Here is not an option. So, I give them the option, and then I tell them how to go to heaven. In my perception, ask God for forgiveness for your sins, and you can be taken to heaven. That's all you have to do. You just have to ask God for forgiveness. That's it. All. That's the hard part. Okay. Now, for those spirits who choose not to do that, and there are spirits that have chosen not to do that in the past, I offer up the second option. You can go to hell. That's your option. You can do it. I have had spiritual experiences where I've experienced what hell feels like. Hell is hopelessness. It is dark. I didn't see any fire or smell brimstone, but it's dark and dingy and just horrible. So it's a horrible feeling. Imagine being completely and utterly hopeless. And some people out there who have gotten to the point of suicide have experienced that utter hopelessness, just ridiculous hopelessness. So I warn them that that's what that is. That's utter hopelessness. And in my perspective, from my experience, heaven is a wonderful place full of love and joy and peace and just the brightest colors you've ever seen in your life. So it is the complete opposite of hell from my perception. So I give them that option and I explain it to them. I tell them you can ask God for forgiveness or you can choose to go to hell. Some of them do choose to go to hell. Excuse me. And when they choose to go to hell, I ask God to place them there, because they're not going to walk off and go, okay, I'm going to hell. Boop-a-doop-a-doo. No. They normally need escorted. Okay. So you have to ask for divine protection and that they will be removed and placed in the pit, in hell, whatever words you want to use for it. But that's the basis of spiritual warfare. And it's simple, it's easy. In my perspective, you don't have to like get the holy oil out. You don't have to get the exorcist coming in. I've never had to experience that in my life. And I've dealt with some really not nice entities. And I think that's important for you to know. I hope you receive it in the way it was meant to come across. I know this is a little outside my norm with my podcasts, but I really feel like this is a good time to start learning about spiritual warfare and protecting our own energies. Because if you are suddenly feeling off, you can do that shadow work that we talked about. But you can also look at, is there something attached to me? Did something come into my field and start manipulating the way I feel? Those are things that you have to ponder and you have to consider. I'm just offering up what I do and how I view the world. So I hope you enjoyed this. Like and share. And I hope that if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Have a good day, y'all.